Alec Baldwin. Yes, the exact same Alec Baldwin that you're thinking of. There's only one of him. I actually don't even need to ask you why it is that you might think that he's in the news because everybody knows we were all just waiting on the verdict. And as it just so happens, well, the verdict came down. And the verdict came down as the following: Alec Baldwin to be charged in fatal Rust shooting. Now, that in and of itself is actually pretty straightforward, right? That's not what caught my attention, though. What really caught my attention was the lawyer, Alec's lawyer. His reaction and the words that he would use in describing this whole situation, it technically wasn't funny, but it made me laugh. So before I explain the three main schools of thought on this, let me actually just build some context so we all understand what it is that he's being charged with and how it all happened. So there's three names that you need to remember in this: Hannah Gutierrez Reed, Helena Hutchins, and Alec Baldwin. Those three individuals are the ones that you need to take note of. Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she was the one overseeing the weapons. Helena Hutchins, the victim, was a Ukrainian cinematographer. Her filmography would be categorized of shows and movies such as Snowbound, World's Tallest Man, A Love Tale, Darlin, Arch Enemy, The Mad Hatter, and of course, the one that was to be announced, Rust. Admittedly, I will let you know right up front, I've seen absolutely none of these. And of course, my favorite character in Fun with Dick and Jane, Alec Baldwin. You know, like my daddy used to say. Those of you that have seen that movie know exactly what I'm talking about. So now that we know who's involved, let's build some context. Helena Hutchins was shot by Alec Baldwin in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2021, and when this story broke, it was actually a really huge story. She died after being shot by Baldwin during a rehearsal for Rust. So as it stands from what we know, Baldwin was pointing a pistol at Hutchins when the gun went off, wounding her, in which case she passed shortly after. Now, with that all said, I said to you earlier, there are three main schools of thought. Here's school of thought number one. It was an accident. The case could readily be made that Gutierrez did not do her job. If she had done her job, before handing the gun over to Baldwin, she would have verified that the bullets are actually either blanks or the gun is actually empty. Because he's a celebrity, he's not expected to have to do those jobs. Those jobs are delegated to somebody else. So really, the neglect would have fell on her. It is not Alec's responsibility to be checking his weaponry, so therefore, that full responsibility for how this happened should have fell to Gutierrez. I guess you would say that this would result in either neglect or mishandling. You could make that claim because Gutierrez Reed was the one responsible for handling the weapons on the set of the film Rust. Now, school of thought number two. Alec should be charged. The reason why he should be charged is because he works as a secondary measure to make sure that the weaponry that he has in his hand is actually safe. Because he's been given the weapons, even though you have someone that is responsible for the weapons on the set, it is still your responsibility as an actor, as a celebrity, and now as a weapons wielder to make sure that the weapon that you actually have has been checked. You work as a failsafe to make sure that you have actually verified that the person before you whose job it is actually did their job, which is why you're being charged with this charge today. So in this case, manslaughter would be the right call because Alec did not do his due diligence. He was handed the weapon and just assumed. That is irresponsible. That level of neglect would fall not towards just Gutierrez, but it would also fall towards Alec. Because you cannot make the case in saying that he was just handed something and then had the nerve to point it directly at someone. If you want to double check it, point it at the floor. Because guess what? If you did that, she'd be alive and Gutierrez Reed would have been fired that exact same day. And then this takes me to school of thought number three, which I consider personally to be the funniest. You see, Alec Baldwin has a very large catalog of film and shows underneath his belt that he can really brag on today, right? He stands very high above many an actor, even today having accomplished a whole lot. And one particular character that I really love him as was Jack McAllister from Fun with Dick and Jane. What an absolute jerk this guy was. Now, in saying that, that's probably not the character that he's most remembered for. Category 3 is the category that I call just desserts. Because it wasn't too long ago that Alec was famous not for Jack McAllister, that character. He was actually famous for pretending to be Trump. At a time where the whole Trump thing was starting to wind down, Alec kind of kept the whole thing going by doing little shorts and little skits here and there, pretending to be the character of Trump. and just exaggerating the mannerisms of Trump, of course for laughs and such, right? But some people didn't find it all that funny. And he constantly just make fun of how reckless he is and how neglectful he is and what an irresponsible individual he is. And of course, Donald Trump, since he has his following, when this situation came up, oh, you better believe they did not hold back. They basically, to give a description, they basically took Alec's face and dragged it through the mud. Not just rubbed it, I'm talking dragged his face all the way through the mud. It's kind of like that guy that when you have your downfall, they just look at you and point and go, look at you now, look at you now. Well, look at Alec now. All of your skits and all your popularity and all your fame can't seem to even get you off a manslaughter charge. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are the three main schools of thought. But let me bring y'all up to speed on what it is that we are faced with today. Alec Baldwin to be charged in fatal Rust shooting. Actor Alec Baldwin and his legal team feel blindsided by today's charges. Remember what I was saying about the lawyer's reaction? Yeah, this is what actually made me laugh. Because in my mind, I could just picture him just kind of looking like, what? Excuse me? It's got to be really awkward to have to then look at your client and say, well, my bad. I thought we were going to get off. I thought they were going to give us maybe a slap on the wrist, some community service, something along those lines. I mean, you're Alec Baldwin. But his attorney, Luke Nickus, told CNN in a statement Thursday they were not given any indication Baldwin would face criminal charges and say they learned the charges in the media, according to Nickus. That's gotta be really painful. So hear this part now. In her first televised interview after announcing the charges decisions, New Mexico's first judicial district attorney, Mary Carmack Altways, I hope I said that right, Altways, told CNN's Josh Campbell her office was in almost constant contact with the opposing party's attorneys for about the last 6 weeks. So this is why he felt blindsided, because the communication was probably indicating to him that, okay, it is a bad situation, but there is nothing to really worry about. So he clearly felt like if there was nothing really to worry about, and then he was probably relaying that to Alec that there's nothing to really worry about because, the judge understands, sympathetic, the whole thing, the whole spiel. And then to hear this, and not even in the court, to hear it in the media, has got to just be a slap in the face. So here he says, earlier Thursday, Nickus said the decision to charge distorts Helena Hutchins' tragic death and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice. I strongly disagree. I completely understand where they're coming from, but I have to lean on the side of personal responsibility for this one, just because you're being given the weapon. It is up to you to make sure that it is safe. The weapons handler is the first line of defense. Alec, you're the second. And both of you didn't do your job, and as a result of that, somebody's gone. But of course, this is just my opinion. Let me know what it is you guys think, because this was a huge story when it first broke, and there were sides on everyone. There were sides everywhere. Everyone was just picking a side and saying, no, it's not his fault, and yes, it is his fault, and this is what he gets for making fun of Trump, and I wonder what Trump has to say, if anything. What side do you lean on? Do you believe that this is just deserved? Do you believe that this is not deserved, or do you believe that this is well deserved? And it's probably just been a long time coming. Whichever side you take, please let me know. I will see you guys again for the next one. This story is pretty interesting, and I wonder if he's actually going to see time. That is what I want to see next. Well, y'all, be easy.